Are you a fan of Martini Window? Why not like, subscribe, or buy us a coffee at martiniwindow.com or the link in our description. Now enjoy the show. Hey everybody, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Kayla.
We love movies.
And talking about them.
This is the Martini Window, and it is a big blast from the past for this one today, because one thing I did not realize about this movie is just how much cast in it just like went on to crazy things. Like, it is an absolutely stacked cast of people who will go on to be these icons.
And in the lead roles, they purposely cast unknown actors at the time.
That is fantastic. And talking about future icons, we have a guest today with such credits as Arrow, Family Law, and currently Allegiance on CBC. We have a friend, colleague, and just wonderful person all around, Miss Stephanie Tripp. Stephanie, thank you for coming over to the show today.
Thanks for having me. That was quite the intro.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
The thing we seem to do every episode is just talk about the movie and not tell them what the movie is.
Oh man, that's something that seems to happen way too often. I think
Hilarious.
It was our season premiere this season. I think it was a good 4 minutes into the episode before one of us remembered to talk about the fact that we were talking about Parasite. Stephanie, how about you tell our audience a little about yourself?
Oh dear. Yeah, I mean, I work as an on-set right now on the TV show Allegiance on CBC. I've been in the film business since 2016 when I moved out to Vancouver from Ontario. Got started actually in the world of archery. I just happened to be right place, right time, and knew how to make arrows. So here we are, and got on with the props team, and yeah, I love it. I started as a fan. I was a huge fan of the Arrowverse and got dropped into my dream job. So that I didn't even know was a thing. So yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
I have such positive memories of the CW era for film workers. There was a good, 10 years there where...
Oh man, for a good decade there, and they were basically employing 80% of our city.
Yeah, exactly. As I think, I don't know, I could be very wrong in this, but I think that Arrow was a 2012 situation or in and around there. And then
it was around
Flash went to
it came at the tail end of Smallville.
Smallville, yeah, because they kind of introduced on the CW scale to Green Arrow, and then it evolved into its own show, but not a spin-off. But yeah, and then to take that right through to 2023 and being on Flash when that kind of closed out the Arrowverse and helping to wrap up that series and get to send all of the props off to LA to be archived or, whatever it is they do with them. Yeah, just kind of seeing that almost tied up with for lack of a better word, tied up with a bow and sent away. But yeah, no, it definitely fond memories.
Very fond memories on that show.
Yeah.
So today you have chosen what is often considered to be one of the greatest teenage rom-coms in history, one that is seen as the major influence for the entire Netflix rom-com revival era, believe it or not. The originator of a sequel that never finished going to camera, one of a very successful, hold on to its legacy in that regard. We were talking about the wonderful Shakespeare adaptation, 10 Things I Hate About You. All right.
It's really funny because working in this industry, I get asked all the time what my favorite movies are. And as you both know, I had a toss up between Empire Records and 10 Things. And I watch Empire Records all the time and do consider that my all-time favorite movie. But I knew that 10 Things I Hate About You was a big part of my high school years. And I watched it once kind of during COVID to introduce my daughter to it. But at the same time, I'm sure I watched it very distracted. And it was kind of sitting there when you approached me about the podcast. I was just like, what is it about that movie, though, that made me be so attached to it in those formative years? And so I wanted to watch it kind of with a new lens. And I got to do that with my family, my support team, kind of here, and just kind of have that new approach to it. And also the characters in that movie are also my daughter's age. So I had a totally different perspective that I was kind of putting on it too. So I just wanted to see
eye to eye with the dad.
Yeah, almost. Kind of. Yeah, in ways. Yeah, just kind of wanting to see there are a lot of themes that kind of play throughout that were present in the original, Taming of the Shrew, and then going in through this adaptation from the 90s, the late 90s, and then coming into that are still very much present now, just those societal pressures and stuff like that. So being able to kind of see what the quote modern time was like of the time of when 10 Things came out, and just sort of seeing how it's evolved since then, or sadly not in some ways. Like, it's been an interesting couple of days for me since I've rewatched it, where I'm like, wow, that's given some light in a couple areas.
I definitely, I loved this movie. As a teenager, I was in love with Heath Ledger, specifically in his role in 10 Things I Hate About You.
Right? Yeah.
He was amazing. In fact, I remember watching a movie, Sky High, and they had a character called Warren Peace, and I was just like, okay, you watched Heath Ledger in 10 Things I Hate About You, and that was your basis for this character.
Yes. You know
But
what?
it was just
exactly.
very similar. But I really loved in this one just the modern adaptation to Shakespeare. I definitely gravitated to it in a way that I didn't to Romeo plus Juliet. I know, a very unpopular opinion. Please don't cancel me, internet. But I liked that they used language, but they did it in this very seamless balance in this movie. Like, it didn't feel like it was above my head, because at the time I saw Romeo plus Juliet, I probably was too young to understand it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that.
Okay, so you're bringing up Romeo plus Juliet, which honestly, the comparison of modern day Shakespeare adaptations is going to be impossible to avoid in this episode. So
Yeah.
it is such a weird niche genre that I personally love, is when they take like old literature or something like that and they adapt it to like a modern rom-com. Like, I love the movie Easy A, which is a adaptation
Yes.
of The Scarlet Letter set in modern high school. Or, Emma, of course, in Clueless. I love when they do that. So with this movie in particular, one thing I found fascinating is, like, in Romeo plus Juliet, they just went ahead and went word for word exactly what the original play said, but set in modern times. I love that this movie kind of set it at like a 30 to 40%, because there's certain moments where, Julia Stiles, there's this one line in particular that I don't know why it sticks out in my mind. She says, he's talking about her car, and she says, fender talk doesn't get my lips flapping, or she says something like, it doesn't get my lips dancing before she goes in the room. No fucking teenager in the world, by the way, you could swear on this podcast.
Yeah.
No
Excellent.
fucking teenager in the world is going to talk like that. But what I love is they're just finding these moments to add these little like Shakespearean flourishes to the dialogue that are that feel completely within that 90s high school, in a way that that doesn't take you out the way Romeo plus Juliet kind of did. And by the way, I'm not trying to shit on Baz Luhrmann here. I love Baz Luhrmann. Just like, it's a perfect example to use as a comparison here.
For the record, I rewatched Romeo plus Juliet when I was like a better age to see it, and I absolutely love it.
We should put a disclaimer on the icon for this episode saying, Baz Luhrmann, I swear we do love you.
Yeah, and it's just like, there's still those elements of like, this could still be applied. I don't want to say timeless, because I feel like that's kind of a trope that we fall into a lot, but like, it could still be applicable now. 10 Things, where like Romeo and Juliet, there's still that, or Romeo plus Juliet is more of a, like, there's that mixture of when is it set? What are we doing? Where they try to add those modern parts and principles, but all of the gunplay, all of that sort of stuff, at least me in a small town in Ontario, that wasn't anything that I ever thought of in terms of a high school situation. I wasn't thinking. So that was something like, like I was in grade 8 in 1996 when that movie came out. So maybe it was just also like the timing where, 10 Things, I was in high school. I was trying to find my individuality, trying to find those elements of myself. And I loved my English classes. So, and I love language. I love reading Shakespeare. So just that element of it, and seeing like, okay, I actually could incorporate some of these words into my daily use and be able to not stand out, or not, you know what I mean? Like, it still just seemed normal to me. And had a group of friends that were very much the same. So it just, like, there was just that sense of it being a little bit more of a realistic approach to like how I see myself too, or saw myself at that time.
Right.
1999 Stephanie is very different from 2025 Stephanie. Like actually saying that now and then thinking back to like my reaction watching this movie yesterday or the day before was like, oh wait. Do I want to admit that I saw myself in these characters? But yeah, at the time I thought it was pretty damn cool. Yeah.
Looking back on the movie, I think teenage Kayla definitely wanted to be the Julia Stiles character who didn't care. But then you see elements of yourself at a teenage age in her sister who just wants to be accepted. And you're like, oh, this is the Glinda Elphaba debate.
Yes, 100%. That's exactly, yeah. It's basically showing like the two ends of the spectrum almost, like in terms of just being so confident in your individuality versus being confident in being like everybody else or setting the pace for or the tone for everyone else. I totally understand that too because I very much wanted this like yeah, but I was also very sheepish. So in terms of like I just kind of more stood back and observed and got to, read my English stuff on my own time. But
These were
yeah.
inner thoughts, not public thoughts.
Yeah, 100%.
So a few things about this movie. One thing I want to actually say, just kind of leaning into that Shakespearean thing. I know you didn't want to use the word timeless, but I'm going to use it anyway because I feel it kind of applies, and it's my show, so I'll get to say.
You could use it. I just don't want.
I will use that word though, because one thing I will say, I was talking earlier about what I like about this sort of niche genre of modern old lit adaptations,
Mhm.
Shakespeare adaptations, is I think part of the reason why some of these stories work better than others is because a lot of these stories at the time are about those very principled values that people kind of hold on to, love, agony, tragedy, maybe not values maybe isn't the right term, more like pillars of personality, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
because that's really what Shakespeare was about, being under a tree, waxing poetic about the love of your life and stuff like that. And these are
Mhm.
things that are all about the human condition. And these are all things that are about human nature. Right? I think that's probably part of the reason why you set it with a bunch of people in two rival houses in the 1500s, or you
Mhm.
set it with two rival cliques in high school or something like that. I think there's a reason why these things actually translate in a way that they do. Like most recently, there was Anyone But You, Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. I haven't seen it yet,
Mhm.
but it's an adaptation of Much Ado About Nothing.
Right. I
And
haven't
I
seen
did
it
not
either,
know
but
that
yeah.
from the ad. I would have seen it in theaters if like they had advertised it as a Shakespeare adaptation.
not even one small ad advertised the fact that this was a Shakespeare adaptation.
Yeah.
And the same kind of process as this. Now that movie ended up doing gangbusters. It did like $250 million on a $20 million budget for a
Yeah.
rom-com in 2023. That's huge at a time where that was not the sort of movie that we were seeing go to theaters. But I think that actually says something exactly with the same 10 things I hate about you, that these stories are in a way framework for just proper stories of the human condition. And, when when we consider the fact that Shakespeare's plays and stories have maintained part of the public consciousness since the 1500s, I think that's saying something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that's also why, in my opinion, it does feel different than Romeo plus Juliet, is because this one does just say, take the story and apply it to regular people in a way
Yeah.
that feels, even if the school itself feels a little animated.
Yeah.
It's an actual
Yeah.
school, by the way.
I looked
That
that
was
up
It
too.
was Stanton High
Yeah.
School in Tacoma, Washington.
In Tacoma.
No
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Incredible.
That looked like a king's mansion.
I was like, this has to be part of like UW or something, right? Like I was just like, it can't just be a high school. But no, I was proven wrong in my own
And when-
assumptions.
Us too. And when Kevin and I were watching the ending crawl with the credit, that shot at the end just for the credits would have cost so much money.
Oh my God, the helicopter
Oh,
shot.
absolutely. The helicopter. Yes, we were talking about that too. Like just how, well, at first it was like, how did they get up there? And then of course they do go over it. But we're like, because I said something about drone shots and I was like, no, this is 1999. The drone shots.
helicopter.
The helicopter.
They're committing a helicopter and
Yeah.
35 mil film. And
Yeah.
how the amount of film it would take for that song to be performed. There is
Exactly.
then spending money on letters from Cleo to be up there and perform just for a shot where half the theater's leaving the theater anyway.
How all in they went in on letters from Cleo.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, they did
Yeah,
like be in
absolutely.
the concert.
Yeah. Being in the concert, like they just kept popping up. Yeah. It was crazy.
Oh, by the way, I guess Patrick just
Yeah.
knows the singer from Letters from Cleo, I guess, by the way.
I
'cause
guess
there's that
so.
bit at the end, like, oh, well, I got her to help us out. And it's like, we
Yeah.
didn't find the time to do this. Did you know her personally? If you knew her personally, why were you not planning on seeing her show that night in the first place?
He knew her
Yeah.
personally, but had private thoughts about her music.
Not so private. First thing he
That's
said was,
so
oh, why would I
funny.
want to go see some chick who doesn't know how to play her instruments?
It's like you knew her.
Like it's his aunt or something. It's like, oh my God, not this chick again.
She's probably like, oh God, what does he want this time? He does this every time he moves for a different girl.
So this was Gil Junger's directorial debut for feature films. Before this, he did television. He was the director of the incompleted 10 Things I Hate About Life, which was actually a sequel of sorts that was being produced in 2005. It had Evan Rachel Wood in the lead. There's a poster out there in the world, and there is footage apparently you can find online, but they never completed production. They only made it, I think, something like 2 weeks into production.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, fascinating, right?
Yeah.
So I think that one was a writer's strike situation or something like that that prevented it from going through. I got to read more into that. One of those famous movies that just never got completed, up there with the remake of Revenge of the Nerds with Adam Brody that got shut down 2 weeks into camera. So Gil Junger went on to make a few other movies. He still makes movies to this day, but one thing I always find very fascinating was he took a lot of big swings for a movie like this. Okay, so after 10 Things I Hate About You, he had Black Knight with Martin Lawrence,
Okay.
which I actually really like that movie.
I haven't seen that movie.
It is a fun movie. He did Black Knight. He did 10 Things I Hate About Life, which, like I said, was unfinished. And his last movie was in 2020, which was Think Like a Dog with Josh Duhamel and Megan Fox. So, 10 Things I Hate About You, as a directorial debut, one thing I want to point out is he did a lot with his blocking, camera movement, and framing. And I felt, and I was saying this to Kayla when we were watching, like a lot more than I felt the genre necessarily demanded in that era.
Yeah.
A couple aspects I really want to point out are just the bits like when they're at the party, Patrick talking to Cam, and right between them, you see that shot of the camera's framing them between them. And between that shot, you see Julia Stiles leaves the frame, walks through, this starts dancing on the table, but it's actually framed perfectly between. The camera booms in. We're now in a different room in a whole other setting. He does so much where a lot of other films of the era, like a good example is another film of that era is Go, is a good example of like kind of a contemporary film, but that was not doing what he did. He really had the camera play around a lot of 360, a lot of steady cam.
Yeah, exactly. And even the stairwell scene where they throw the flyers out for the Bogey Lowenstein party, framed so perfectly. And given the props in there that had everything falling the right way, that looked so good. And that's one of the first shots I think of with this movie is that exact perfect drop of the papers.
How many takes do you think that took?
Oh my goodness. To get all of the background looking in the right spot at the exact right time, to like, I cannot imagine. And if I find out that it's less than 5, I would be shocked.
Right?
You know what I mean? Like that, it seems so simple. And I know that it happens, but at the same time, that was perfect. It was a great shot.
Also the background gags, even just for some of the shots where people are walking away, they have like a hockey fight happening in the back of the park. It was like near the parking lot or something.
The hockey fight happened.
Just going down.
That's the last shot that turns into the that helicopter shot.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't even focus on it either.
No,
like, it was just a background gag as they're walking away. But how expensive would that have been just for that to happen?
Exactly. Or like the one that obviously stood out to me is the archery scene with Bianca, and she like turns and shoots her teacher in the ass, and it's like you hear the yell off
the camera
screen.
Has that nice pivot, and it's just framed between the two of them while they're talking now.
And it's like he's like in agony over at the side, and it just moves on. Like it's all background gag.
And that's what
hilarious.
That's so hilarious about this, because some of this stuff, like I don't know if you saw the movie Bottoms that came out a couple years ago.
I have,
Yeah, you have. Okay, so it's kind of very similar to what I found it was doing here. Like tons of background gags, always something going on. You got little bits like they're in the track and field meeting, and in the background you see like a military squadron doing a fucking drill. This is in this movie. You see them doing like a drill run in the back.
Yeah,
and they're wearing full like military regalia on a fucking high school. Bottoms did a similar thing with that sort of background constantly. But my God, it's one of those things that again separated this movie from a lot of the movies of that era that were trying to do the same thing. It's like Never Been Kissed is the other one I think of that kind of had a similar mindset with that.
That's true. That's
true. That's true.
There's also so many other like little costume jokes that I've seen that I didn't understand as a teenager because I'm now seeing the queer coding. When he goes to the lesbian bar.
What the hell is into that place?
The
skunk bar.
The skunk, when he goes to the skunk bar.
Club Skunk.
That's skunk. And everyone in the beginning of the shot is in a different version of a black tank and almost the same jeans.
Yeah.
They're all wearing the exact same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh
And there
man.
was what was the other the other thing that stood to me was a prop, was when Kat was reading The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. Because it was like, just in case you weren't sure, or in case you were needing that, like, to be hit over the head, here, this is another piece of literature about women feeling suppressed and losing their minds because of the pressures of society situation. If we need that other parallel to connect what this movie is really about, and I'm using air quotes here, um, like, yeah, no, that was one that stood out to me where, and again, that all kind of came from the framing where it was like through the window into what was inside the house and going down, and she was reading that. It was very beautifully set up too.
So much of that movie does this though. Like the camera's really being used as like a secondary character and really being used to actually
Yeah.
do the joke reveals, like a lot of classic storytelling through your camera blocking, through your actual like I I'd mentioned earlier how this movie is actually seen as the main influence for that Netflix revival era of rom-coms.
Mhm.
But I will say, and I know some people who are listening to this might be a little pissed off because maybe they made one of these movies. Is that a lot of what I see nowadays is very much that. Okay, we got two people talking about the problem that we saw in the second act. By the way, Kayla pointed something out here. The second act turnaround in this movie happens almost exactly halfway through when they
Okay.
school
Yeah,
dance.
that's
That
No?
awesome.
was the party.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
their feelings kind of get turned inside out, and then the characters switch to like a different
Yeah.
Yeah,
track in the
different direction of where they're
yeah.
going emotionally. But Gil's younger here in this movie, like every single piece of blocking was so well planned out, so well figured out. It was hit for comedic timing constantly. Like any vomit was used with perfect comedic timing. Buddy constantly making out with the drunk chick at the party was done perfectly with like the way he stopped, the moment you stand, the moment you like, and you'll see that
Yeah.
sort of care and attention. I find a
No,
lot of the
exactly.
time within these teen rom-coms.
The amount of
No.
coordination required most scenes in this movie is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then to hear you say too, like Kayla, you used the term inside out in terms of coming to terms with that. And it's like, yeah, that vomit was just very strategically placed in because that was literally that. Literally inside out, everything turned at that moment. And
Exactly.
so for that to come about at that halfway turning point is pretty perfectly timed out.
Oh man.
One of my favorite scenes is when she's backing into his car.
Uh-huh.
And Heath Ledger's character, what was his Patrick?
Patrick.
Patrick is just you can tell that's the moment he kind of fell in love with her a little bit because he's just watching her destroy this man's car.
Property damage
Yeah.
will do that.
That attracts quality in a woman.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Violence and property damage.
yeah.
Oh man. So this movie too is a real who's who of who is going to go on to be huge. Like I always find Joseph Gordon-Levitt to be one of the most interesting little factors of this because he went away for like a good 6-7 years to go to college before he came back with the 500 Days of Summer. But this is obviously before that. And so I always find this kind of interesting because like if you were to actually take a look at this movie and realize that at the time Julia Stiles was the
Unknown.
she was the pull for this, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Was she an unknown?
They
The-
also interviewed Eliza
pulse-
Dushku. Sorry,
Okay, I could see that. No, I think the pull for this, like in terms of like anybody coming in with popularity, it was Andrew Keegan and Larissa Olenek, right? Like we had, what was the show she was on? Secret World of Alex Mack. And you had, I'm like trying to look up Andrew Keegan's things, but I remember him like very prominently like going back to those Tiger Beat, whatever magazines that were put at my eye level at, like 12, 13, 14 years old. So a couple of years before this movie came out. And it's like, no, I definitely remember him being part of that teen heartthrob sort of pack that they had.
Right.
I do.
And yet I cannot think of anything aside from this movie that he's. I'm sure I could scroll IMDb, but to think back before that, I don't actually know if I know him from anything.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Like maybe like a Boy Meets World, or you know what? No, I take that back. I think he was like a Baywatch, Full House, like kind of in that realm. But was he? Just trying to think if I feel like he was on Baywatch or something.
Andrew Keegan we're talking about.
Yeah. So
Okay.
like, but that
I'll
was
be-
the thing
I'll-
is like, I remember him being the pull or like one of the reasons why my
was
friend
on
group
Party of
wanted to
Five.
watch that movie. Right.
Yeah.
But like Full House and Seventh Heaven kind of blend together for me, I think. I remember that being like why my friend group wanted to watch the movie and stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, cool.
Because at that point, too, Joseph Gordon-Levitt was Tommy on Third Rock.
Third
and,
Rock, exactly.
Third Rock.
Yeah.
That is like around the Just Shoot Me era. That's like Just Shoot Me
Yeah.
and Third Rock from the Sun.
Absolutely.
Oh, Just Shoot Me was a great series.
So good.
And I just want to point out, with that era as well, Heath Ledger was likely a transplant from Australia from you guys. Because he was doing Ned Kelly at that point, wasn't he?
I think so.
Yeah.
But before Heath Ledger came onto it, they also auditioned Josh Hartnett and Ashton Kutcher for his role.
Josh
Oh
Hartnett.
my. That was like in an alternate timeline may have been Patrick.
What's crazy about
That's-
this is that with Ashton Kutcher, he
He's-
literally was Kelso at that time.
Yeah, but then they
That's-
decided to go with unknowns with Julia Stiles and Heath Ledger instead of known people.
That's
So there's a world
crazy.
where we almost got Ashton Kutcher as Patrick.
Yeah.
And instead we got Heath Ledger in this.
Yep.
All right.
But then, like, within 2 years of 10 Things coming out, like, he went on to, Heath went on to The Patriot and Knight's Tale. Like, he got some pretty big roles pretty much immediately.
Between this
So-
and Knight's Tale, that guy really was the king of needle drops back then.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, just
Yeah.
a fantastic soundtrack in this movie. Knight's Tale as well, too. AC/DC with Knights is fantastic.
Absolutely.
I find a lot of things Heath Ledger was in, like even if it's rom-coms and that kind of movie, he brought a lot of depth to a role that otherwise would not have had a lot of depth.
Did you ever see the movie? Have either of you seen the film Candy?
No.
With Heath
I
Ledger?
know. No.
Oh, man. If you want to just completely ruin your night, you should watch Candy. And it's a great movie. Fantastic movie. It's just really heartbreaking. When it was Heath Ledger, he did it in like 2005. It was him and, oh my God, who was it? Not Michelle Williams. No, it wasn't Michelle Williams. But it was a movie he did, I think with Abby Cornish. And the whole idea of the movie is I was showing this character's degradation into a heroin addiction that he draws his lover with, and him trying to get out of it by the end, and how it's like showing the whole relationship was based on heroin. I know it's not the topic of this movie, but I want to point out this was
All good.
this is in 2004. Heath Ledger did this film, and I always thought this was one of those things that he really should have gotten more recognition for, but it never really seems to come
Right.
up a lot in the talk about his movies from that era. But it was around the same time as Knight's Tale.
I did not
Okay,
see it,
yeah.
and I've got another movie to my list now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Candy.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you really want to have a great time ruining your night, Candy.
Yeah.
It's like do it as a double feature with Requiem for a Dream if you never want to smile again.
Perfect.
Then drown your feelings with Marley and Me.
Oh, jeez.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
Marley and Me.
Yeah.
That's great with the Fireflies.
Oh my God. What depressing lineup. So 10 things
Oh,
I hate
wow.
about you.
Yeah.
Darkest thing in this movie is a concussion.
Right? One of my favorite characters in the movie that I do want to talk about is the teacher. He's my
Morgan?
favorite. The actor was known as Daryl Chill Mitchell because he was a member of a hip hop group in the 80s called Groove Be Chill. Just like every way that he delivers his lines, I'm like, yeah, you were totally a guy in a hip hop band.
Oh, man.
Just the way he throws his voice around the room, his sass, like he just seems like that teacher who's just done with all of their emotional bullshit. Like even at the end when Kat's reading her very sincere poem, he's just got this look on his face where he's like, God damn it.
Every single year, I get somebody in this goddamn class using this goddamn assignment.
English class moments were amazing. Like, don't even get me started on YouTube. But yeah.
He was
That's
also
so
the
funny.
perfect combatant because she was such like a strong-headed like feminist character with
Yeah.
all of the pitfalls and the pluses of
Yeah.
that with being as aggressive as she was, and it was him as a black man being like, really, you're gonna talk to me about inequality?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I honestly,
the-
he had some of my favorite one-liners in that movie.
Yeah.
I love teacher characters who are just done with your shit. Like if time travel was a weird thing and he became an actor now, I could see him on something like Abbott Elementary doing the exact same thing.
Yeah. 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 And then like to compare it to like the role of Miss Perky and that character.
Oh, Allison Janney.
Yeah.
When she straight up calls her, what was it?
A heinous
A
bitch.
heinous bitch.
Yeah.
This bitch.
Yeah.
So I gotta ask. So you said you watched
Yeah.
this with your daughter? You said?
I did, yeah. Yeah.
So, some aspects of this movie have not aged the best. So,
No.
I am kind of curious about it as a mother watching this with your daughter in 2025, because certain bits of this movie were not played for anything other than sincere. Like, basically the entire idea that Cameron thinks he's kind of owed Bianca
Yeah.
for doing all these things for her. That's played as sincere in the movie, or
Yeah.
flashing the teacher.
Yeah, there were definitely a lot of moments that, well, first of all, it didn't really age well. And second of all, it kind of also made me pause and go, like, how much of that at that age was I taking into consideration at all?
Yeah.
And I mean, hopefully, like, looking back, I'm like, I mean, thankfully, not really. None of it in that aspect. Like, I never would have flashed a teacher, I can tell you that much. Or been like, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have even laughed had somebody else done it, sort of deal. Like, yeah, just that whole thing of like, it was accepted as something funny in that film. And like, sincerely, yeah, that's funny. Let's do it. Yeah. And then we're going to joke about it even later about, the girl being like flashing to get him out of detention and whatever, like that was seen as an act of, I don't want to say love, but like an act of, in his
Sucker.
favor. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, I'm gonna do this for you. And it's like not
And
taking into
that teacher
consideration
is
how
never
inappropriate it
working
is.
again.
Yeah. Nowadays, absolutely not. Even
Just
though
ruined that teacher's
it's
life
not like he
completely.
asked for it. Yeah. Not that
No,
he
he
asked
just-
for it. And yet at the same time.
But it's teenage love.
Yeah, exactly. And then your point about Cameron acting as if he had been owed it. But even right now, like,
Nowadays, we
kind
call
of
that
come
an
out.
incel.
Yeah, exactly. But even like the whole concept of the dad being so strict about both daughters' virginity
Yeah.
and like that whole thing, like, I feel like times, I don't know, and maybe it's just kind of where my source of community at the moment, but like times are kind of changing in terms of that whole concept of purity, virginity, whatever it's just not something that I've ever talked to my daughter about in that sense of like a sense of pride or a sense of,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, just, it's not a clean versus unclean thing. And I grew up in a, Christian household and whatever. So I also had that sort of same concept on like in my upbringing a little bit more.
Right.
So maybe it stands out to me on that level as well, that I think I've kind of gone the opposite way in terms of just expressing to my daughter, like, on the parenting level. Like, I'm not going to stand there and be like, you're not allowed to date until you're 18 or until you're out of the house. Because what does that even mean? What does that do? So on the parent side, looking back, I'm just like, yeah, no, this is not, this is not a responsible way to parent somebody. This is not
Pretty
a
sure her
good
dad
approach.
was. Pretty sure her dad was like always. I'm pretty sure the intention was always to be that he's seen as like, excessive with that.
Yes, exactly.
I don't think that was ever played as like something to be supportive of.
Yeah, like, and that's how I took that too. And then especially like going back to when I mentioned like The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, like that's very much
Yeah.
kind of how that ties in right there, is like, no, this is kind of an
Yeah.
over the top, meant to make everything blow up. But
They kind of throw him a bone with the whole, when you're protective as a father, and they're kind of doing that whole thing, which I gotta be honest, feels like a bit of a cop out.
yeah, exactly.
I was like, well,
Well,
I've
yeah.
excessively ruined your guys' social life, but it's just because I'm a protective dad.
And the
And then-
pregnancy suit.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
the couple of mentions that they had about the mom who left, like,
Yeah.
she hadn't died, she whatever, like, so the dad hadn't, like, kind of this, deeper level of an excuse to be mad at women, or to at least not trust their ability to make decisions or whatever.
Right. To an
Um,
amount that was acceptable in 1999.
But then it's also like, okay, thinking back now at my divorced self, going, yeah, no wonder she left. But if this is how you are with your daughter, no wonder she's not there anymore. I'm finding myself rooting for this woman, hoping she's gotten away and is happy now. And I'm like, she doesn't even exist.
I think it also doesn't
But-
help that he's a doctor who literally has to
Yeah.
help women give birth. So he's he's over the
Yes.
top and controlling, but he's probably also confronted every day with like teenage mothers, and like it would be like being a cop and seeing the worst of society and then
Yeah.
wanting to lock your daughters up because you see the results every day.
Or like being a
Or
paramedic and then being really hardcore about not drinking and driving.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But then also having that whole approach too, that you kind of like the narrative that you put on to the situation as well, of like, his wife left him, his kids are, like they're healthy and whatever and successful, except not exactly happy. And whatever the case is, like, so he's kind of sitting there all grumpy, taking it in those regards. Like, so these families having their happy moments, and he's like, yeah, we're all probably gonna pain or whatever. And he, things grumpy. Yeah, very extreme with how he's making sure everybody else is too.
Yeah, you know what I found actually very interesting about that whole dynamic and about the dynamics of the era is like we're seeing this father who's kind of got the purity complex, I guess. I'm hardcore on that. So what's interesting about that era versus now is I almost feel like, okay, so he created a bit of a stereotype that we saw in fathers in movies for a while after that.
Yeah,
I found like
yeah,
this movie was hella influential for a lot of other rom-coms that came, teen movies that came after its time. And it kind of created, like I said, a stereotype of that. But what I find interesting is like, go forward about 15 years and to early 2010s, we start actually seeing a reverse to this where I guess people have gotten more liberal minded. What I find interesting is you started seeing a different stereotype. Like, I don't know if anyone else noticed, but I find that the common stereotype that's made fun of nowadays is the parents who are almost too open about sex.
yeah, absolutely.
Parents in Big Mouth.
And Nick's
Yeah,
parents in Big Mouth, there's actually a really good
yep,
example, an extreme example of that sort of thing.
very true. And like, yeah, something else that I noticed is like the whole, I feel like this movie kind of played a lot on hinting at certain or giving an essence of certain tropes and
Yeah.
then blowing past them. So like her applying to Sarah Lawrence and getting into Sarah Lawrence, and it's like you agreed to a West Coast affiliate, but then it was like, but then that was just said and done. And like, but then that came back at the end is like, well, this is me accepting you. This is me giving you a little bit of freedom. This is whatever. But it's almost like now, whether it's even through social media, you've got like that whole play on, or at least my algorithms, I think because my daughter is 17, is I'm getting a bunch of videos of like, oh, thank God my kid's gonna be going off to college soon. That's almost like the opposite end of that is like trying to make sure that your kid's an individual, trying to make sure that they can succeed on their own. And also like trying to fight, I guess, as a parent to get a little bit of individuality back or something. But there's like, that's almost like, so watching that really stood out where I was like, that's not how it is anymore at all. Like, and I don't think that trope really lands anymore of like, oh, like, I'm under all these pressures because my dad wants me to take over the family business and whatever. All of those storylines from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s are like, I don't think I've seen that played in a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely where you get a sign of different times. I'm actually very
Yeah.
curious if there was another. Has there been another Taming of the Shrew adaptation that we've had since this one? I think Julie Taylor may have had one, but hers would have been direct adaptation.
I didn't think we have.
Because I'm kind of curious how they would actually handle that aspect with the father in that whole situation. Fun fact, actually, the writers of this movie, who were Karen McCullough and Kristen Smith, they went on to do another actual Shakespeare adaptation, She's the Man with Amanda Bynes.
I remember that one.
Yeah, that was at 12th Night, if I'm not mistaken. I am kind of curious if you would see a difference in the modern sentiment of how they wrote that.
I think it depends.
Because there's about
What?
10-year difference there.
Well, you were talking before about like, would they do the Taming of the Shrew again? I can see it happening if the family's super rich. Like, for example, if you look at like really rich Korean families where everyone's marrying for like business power, I can absolutely see a Taming of the Shrew as like this fun K-pop movie
Okay, yeah, I can see
where
that.
it's like the richest guy in Korea's like has two daughters kind of thing. I can see that being an actual thing for like a business proposition.
So you're basically saying that if somebody were to do a modern Taming of the Shrew nowadays, like they did with 10 Things, you think they would just completely avoid America altogether with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess what I was saying, though, more so is talking about the sentiments of the father. Good point, by the way, Kayla. I'm just saying, like, the sentiments at the time of the father and the family dynamics. Now, do you think that would be something that they would play with differently?
I think it would depend because it would be a difference. It wouldn't necessarily be about a father controlling or protecting his daughters, but it would be more of a class kind of thing, where a controlled way on who you bring into the family.
Right.
More the way that I see that would go now, because that is a more acceptable version of a lot of the themes in this movie.
I see.
Yeah. Okay, so the musical, Kiss Me Kate, that musical is based on Taming of the Shrew. I think 2023, 2024, there was a film based on that musical. It's almost about the failing, dwindling show or theater that's trying to put on a performance of Taming of the Shrew. It's all very kind of twisted in and of itself. And yet, I haven't seen the film, and I've only seen clips from the musical. I've never seen it live. I think that the film takes place in the mid-50s or whatever, when that
Right.
Broadway musical premiered.
Certainly more similar then.
Yeah,
That would make a lot of
yeah.
sense to be said then.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, is like, I feel like putting it in that sort of a setting, it's an easier story to retell.
Yeah. What I found fascinating about this was how the Shakespearean archetypes of character actually fit really well with the high school dynamic and the kind of high school cliques. I mean, the cliques in this movie were, like I said, pretty damn near kind of like animated. How you had, you had your
Golfers.
Yeah, the golfers.
Yeah.
Which
Teenagers
golfers.
dressed like old men playing golf.
I just want to
Yeah,
take a moment
exactly.
here and actually just point out how bloody amazing the casting was for all the non-main characters in this movie.
So
Like,
many
Yes.
character actors.
so many
Like
character
Bogey
faces.
Lowenstein, or like,
I
how old
was-
is this character? How old is
He
he
was
supposed to be?
Perfect.
Like,
I feel like
yeah,
he's 50.
His
yeah,
face
100%. Like,
his face looked like the rich kid in an animated Disney movie. I loved it.
yeah, yeah,
But simultaneously also like a middle-aged man, just the way he constantly held his expression, like, no, don't hurt that, don't touch that. Listen, take care of the coffee table. My dad paid a lot of money for it.
yeah.
Got a guy.
Oh
like-
my God.
Just before the crowd bursts into his party, and he's like, "That's Nigel with the brie." Like, I
Don't
didn't
touch
know what
anything.
I didn't know what brie was at 18.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, Kyle Cease, the guy's name, he only did 2 movies.
Okay.
And in the other movie he did 10 Things I Hate About You. And then he did Not Another Teen Movie.
Oh my god.
Incredible.
Fantastic.
Kyle Cease is his name, former American actor and comedian, current motivational speaker. My God, I would listen to that man talk for hours.
Absolutely.
I also one thing I love about this movie is it's like the classic, Shakespeare mess of characters. But throughout this plot, all of the characters who deserve, in quotation marks,
She's air quoting.
I'm air quoting,
Yeah.
who deserve to end up with someone who's perfect for them, even his friends. What was his
William?
William? Yes.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
it's Michael.
Shakespeare. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Shakespeare.
But I love that he only talked to her friend because he needed help with the plot. But then as soon as he met her friend, he's like, no, I'm going to do the Shakespeare thing.
Yeah.
It was just very sweet at the end. Even he got a happy ending.
I mean, I do find it kind of funny how quickly he was ready to start scheming with Josie Warren-Levitt, Cam, the moment he meets him.
He
Yeah.
was bored.
He met Cam for like one day before Cam had his eyes set on Bianca, and they were already scheming together in 3 different directions.
Yeah. And I mean, he did just have that friend group breakup though, because he was like, yeah, yesterday I was their god or whatever,
Yeah.
however it was that he screwed over his friend group.
Yeah.
He clearly has a schemy background, but yeah, he
But my
kind
God,
of went right in for his prey.
David Krumholtz was just so good in that role, though.
Oh, yeah. And he was also manipulating his social standing in the school. It wasn't just because they were friends. He was like, oh, I can get in with the popular kids, or I can get something from it.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. David Krumholtz was actually somebody I was saying to Kayla. He's one actor I'm always surprised just never blew up. You know what I mean? He always
Yeah.
showed up and just stole the show in every movie he was in. We're all 3 here. I know we're all Firefly fans. So, of course, we all know he was Mr. Universe in Serenity. But, of course, most recently, he got a lot of acclaim for his role in Oppenheimer.
Mhm.
But he is somebody from this era. He was in this. He was in Santa Claus. He was in a few other movies at the time. Like I will say, he just stole the show, I feel, in every single movie he did. But I always found it very surprising. I always thought he would go on to be like a big leading man. But I think in reality, he was just a fantastic character actor of his time. I'm talking about
Yeah.
like he's dead for some reason.
This is how still up.
Still around,
Yeah.
still acting.
I'm sure he's doing well just on the royalties from Santa Claus as it is every Christmas. But you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I completely understand because he has one of those IMDb pages that I found out when watching this movie. I'm like, yeah, I could scroll for days
Yeah.
and not be at the end of his credits. And he also was one of those characters in every single thing that he's been in that you're like, oh my God, that's the guy. For me, yeah, I'm like, it's the guy from the Santa Claus. Like, that's who he is to me. And even though, again, like 10 things, like I did used to admittedly put this movie on the VHS every night to go to bed. And I would fall asleep probably before we even got introduced to Patrick. 10
Wow.
minutes in and I was done. That's not a testament to the movie in any regard. It was just a matter of, it was familiar part of my day, every day in high school sort of deal. And like, yet he's still the guy from the Santa Claus.
Do you know how
Um,
many actors out there, though, would love to be known as the guy from the Santa Claus?
Well, exactly.
And I mean, I think
Exactly.
maybe that also answers my question as to what David Krumholtz, because he really is, in my opinion, just an absolutely brilliant character actor. But maybe that's
Mhm.
exactly the reason why he never became a leading man, because he never was the leading man actor. He was such a brilliant guy from that movie you've seen 100 million times. A good example of that is Ken Lerner is a very similar
Yeah.
example of that. Ken, you probably know who Ken Lerner is. Just classic character actor of screen, and he was always like a very working man type look, very like the schmutz. He like being the schmutz that you see in the back who's in the train, who's working on the newspaper, that kind of guy.
That
Yeah.
makes so much sense because in this movie, like even when they have the bloopers at the end where he's making out with a friend,
Yeah.
and
What
then
does he-
that he feels like your uncle who's 40 when he just makes these comments because they're so like not teenage
Yeah.
comments. He's
Yeah.
like, here, let me get the schmutz off your face.
He's there for
Yeah.
Thanksgiving. He's had maybe a bottle of wine, and he's on to his next.
Feels like the
Exactly.
direction they took this teenage character.
Oh man, I really hope David Krumholtz hears this at some point, because I'd love to have him on the show, and I hope he doesn't feel like I'm insulting him.
Yeah.
I have so many favorite characters in the film, but he's one of my favorites. He's so entertaining to watch in like every scene he's in.
Absolutely. And even like when it showed the blooper reel at the end and like it, yeah, he was definitely like what was making me laugh through that part too, those parts too.
Yeah.
Like he could drop those one-liners and make everybody laugh on set. So
And the bloopers, did they put deleted scenes in there? Like when they call it the teachers making out around the
thought
film.
that was
Yes.
still been
Yeah.
deleted,
Yeah.
yeah.
That must have been
Yeah.
deleted scenes, right?
I took that to be a bit of more of a gag. Like, yeah, I think
Set pranks.
them walking and talking was that what may have been the deleted part, but then it was like, yeah,
Right.
just kind of a set prank situation.
Set praise would have cost a lot more when you had to shoot it on film.
That's what I was just thinking. I was like, oh yeah, we do that all the time. Well, I don't, but it does.
No. The three of us on this show have been 100% professional in every one of our on-set actions.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You can't see it, but we're all
100%.
winking right now. Steph, it has been an absolute wonderful time having you on this show. And it was so great it's always so great jumping into some of these movies. In this case, I hadn't seen in close to 20 years. It was great having you on here. People that are listening, I'm actually more friends with Steph. We work with Steph. I'll be seeing Steph tomorrow after this recording at work. Anything you'd like to say before we sign off for the day?
I don't think so, but I loved the chance of watching it again, and this has been a lot of fun. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much, Steph.
All right.
And thank you for the suggestion. I was so happy when I heard that.
Amazing.
All right.
Awesome. All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed making it. If you'd like to show your support, then visit martiniwindow.com and come buy us a coffee or buy yourself some merch.